What is up, Big 12 Nation? It's a little later than normal, but it is Tuesday night in America. And that can mean only one thing. It is time for another edition of your favorite YouTube-centric Big 12 show. We're also on Spotify as well. Check us out there. That's right. It is The Biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. Thanks so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night experience. And life trudges onward in the Big 12. We're all just trying to make it. And we've got a great couple of guests for you today. But before we get to any of that, you know I need something from you. Please subscribe to the show. Like the show, subscribe to the show, share it with all your friends and family, share it with your enemies. You know, I don't care. As long as you're telling people about the show, that's really all I'm asking for from you. There it is right there at Big 12 Voice of College Football. That like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button while you're at it. And go ahead and subscribe to my personal channel at Clint Foster Comedy. I'm a little slow with content, I know. Life is crazy right now. Y'all have no idea. I've got a lot of things I'm juggling. But I'm going to do my very, very best to get this Utah video out for you hopefully later this week. And then Texas Tech, we'll see what happens. I've got a big weekend ahead of documentary production, which, by the way, check that out. I tweeted Star Telegram, the Fort Worth Star Telegram, did a story about my upcoming documentary, so you can check that out. And follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. But enough of all that. Let's move right along into our business of the day. And I like I said, I got two amazing guests here. One of them is also almost becoming a de facto co-host of the show, Brownie from Wide Right 90, ladies and gentlemen, and making his return, Austin Eckert, the resident Kansas Jayhawk friend of the show. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Doing excellent.
I'm feeling great.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Okay, well, let's get this thing rolling with a question I've got for y'all. Something that Brownie was a bit prescient about perhaps last week. Is Texas Tech fraudulent? Is Texas Tech dookie? That is the question, gentlemen. Your answer.
100%. I already called it. Butt Bowl, they lost. TCU, I think I messaged you during the postgame show. TCU is going to win 41-38. Calling it.
Hope you're right.
I was pretty shocked that Baylor won last week. Now, I will say Tech gave up 51 points to Abilene Christian, so part of me wasn't too surprised that they gave up as many points, but I didn't expect Baylor to be the one to put up like 59 points on them, so I was very impressed. And Sawyer Robertson is from Lubbock. Had a homecoming game, threw for 5 touchdowns. I mean, it was crazy. So, yeah, I would say right now, yes.
I mean, so we'll of course talk about the TCU game, and actually we can look at Texas Tech's schedule moving forward when we do that. But yeah, it's kind of wild. You know, if Cincinnati has just a little bit better clock management, they lose that game at home. ACU should have won at home. Tech is just a couple of nose hairs away from a very different looking season. And it will be interesting to see here in the second half if things start to fall apart for them. Gentlemen, the last week of football, what was your biggest takeaway? As always, this can be about your team. It can be about another team. What stood out to you last week?
I think what stood out to me was the three undefeated teams were all having issues in their games, you know. Texas Tech lost the Butt Bowl. And BYU and Iowa State won on what I would say last second Hail Mary, like wishful drives to win 38-35. Like, I find it amusing and weird that both games finished 38-35.
Yeah.
I personally was screaming at the TV during the BYU Okie State game. I thought that Presley, as soon as he broke off that tackle on the 3-yard line, I think he should have gone down at the 1 and forced BYU to call one more timeout before they went in and scored, or maybe do a kneel down or a QB sneak, but make sure not to quite score on 1st and goal. To, you know, drop that time down a little bit, or at least force BYU to waste all of their timeouts on defense. As soon as they got the football, I just thought it was wild because I'm like, great, BYU is going to win this because Okie State's defense is Swiss cheese. And I don't know if I felt like they gave up in trying to tackle or they're just that bad at tackling, but their tackling was horrendous the last minute and a half of that game. And I think that's honestly what won BYU. And then for the Iowa State game, that was pure and utter chaos for the last couple of minutes. I personally think that UCF should have gone for it on, I think it was like 4th and 4 at basically midfield. They opted to punt it to Iowa State with like a minute and change left because we used all of our timeouts on the north side of the 2-minute timeout. So they gave Rocco Beck almost the exact same amount of time that Okie State gave Retzla's and BYU to score. And surpriser, UCF's quarterback can't throw the football, which definitely showed in the play stats when he only threw for like 50 yards.
Yeah. Crazy. It truly is crazy that both Iowa State and BYU's games ended 38-35. And also that UCF is getting y'all in back-to-back weeks. That's two very strange things. And again, a game that I'm very excited to talk about, that BYU at UCF game.
Right.
Very, very delicious. Austin, what was your big takeaway from the past week?
Well, as far as my team goes, I'm just happy that we finally won a game. 5-game losing streak, definitely unforeseen. I was talking with you guys right before we went live. Like, nobody expected this to happen, and I don't think anybody outside of the KU fan base expected it to happen. But I was just glad that the offense finally came together. 2 guys who were questionable to play, Kobe Bryant and Cornell Wheeler, got some interceptions. Cornell got 1, and Kobe Bryant had 3 of them. And it was just a great performance overall. Jalen looked like himself finally, and it was a good game. And I'm glad that KU was able to bounce back and get a big win over Houston, who did beat TCU, who KU lost to, which makes no sense to me because I feel like anybody in this conference can beat anybody, and that's also a big takeaway for me from this past week. Talking about for example, Baylor and Tech. I didn't expect Baylor to have as big of a game as they did, but they certainly did. And they went on the road in Lubbock and put up 59 points. Unbelievable. Sawyer Robertson had his homecoming game because he's a Lubbock kid and threw for 5 touchdowns. Is mind-boggling to me. But yeah, it was a crazy week for the Big 12, and it's going to be even a crazier week, I think, this upcoming weekend.
True that, man. True that. I mean, much like you, Austin, I experienced a rare win for the TCU Horned Frogs this past week, beating Utah. I mean, that's fabulous. As a former acolyte of the Mountain West, I love beating Utah. That's 3 in a row now. Who's got it better than us, beating Utah 3 times in a row? Turns out a lot of people, because that game was really, really frustrating, and it was miserable. By the time it was finally
Win's a win.
2 a.m. But hey, here's the thing. We can play defense. That's my big takeaway. TCU can play defense. Whether or not we do ever again, that's an entirely different question. But, the defense showing up against Utah is very encouraging to me. Is this a turning point? Are we turning the corner? Can we maybe, reel off a few more wins with the schedule we have left? Maybe. I'm most worried about trips to Baylor and Cincinnati, which I never saw myself saying at the beginning of the season. But those are the remaining games that scare me the most. If the offense can have a pulse as they have in most games, then, this team could end up being okay by the end of the year. And then maybe we don't feel like we need to jump off cliffs and take the entire coaching staff with us. We shall see. But, I said to my friends after the game, and I believe I said it on the post-game show as well, I'd much rather be angry about a win than angry about a loss, right? It was a frustrating win, but we did get the win. So, looking ahead, let's start with my game of the week, the Sunflower Showdown. Why don't we? And then we will check back in, of course, on our simulation, as we often do. Austin, obviously, Kansas's season has not gotten off to the start that so many of us thought it would. Kansas was one of my dark horses for the Big 12 title game. I'm sure you felt the same way about it.
Yes.
Obviously, last year's Sunflower Showdown, that's when we're like, hey, is this when Kansas finally breaks the streak? We were feeling a lot better about it. This year, it feels like a little bit of a different matchup. Kansas has struggled. Kansas State's a 10-point favorite. But can the Jayhawks ride the wave of this momentum from this past week? Do you think there's any way that you see your beloved Jayhawks scoring the upset victory in this?
Well, I definitely think there's a way that they can pull this off. I think starting for me, there's a lot of seniors on this year's team. There's 30 seniors, I believe. And a lot of those guys played in the game last year. And I would have to imagine their mindset right now is, how do they want to go out? Like, how do they want to leave KU? Do they want to go out and, and finally ending the streak, or do they want to leave and never beaten these guys? So that's got to be running through their heads right now. I'm sure it is. I think they remember all too well what happened last year. Obviously, it was a game where it seemed like KU was able to figure out how to beat them, but then they just shot themselves in the foot with mistakes upon mistakes. You have of course, the muffed punt, and then the missed, I want to say missed opportunity, but I guess it was a missed opportunity, a dropped pick six. And then it just seemed like, from there on out, like the momentum kind of shifted into Kansas State's favor, and they were able to close it out in the final moments of that game. And they walked away with a victory. But, I was very impressed with how KU played in that game, considering that they had to play Cole Ballard at quarterback. Obviously, Jason Bean got hurt the week before against Texas Tech. And Leipold said that he was cleared to play, but the thing was he didn't practice enough. So that's why they went with Cole, which for most people, they're going to look at that and go, why did they not play him? Like, no matter what, you should put your best players out there, right? Well, I thought Cole Ballard played well, and he threw for 2 interceptions. Of course, you can't have that. But I thought for him making his first start as a true freshman, I thought he handled himself well. He made some big-time plays, too. He had some nice quarterback runs, made some big-time throws, too. I mean, now that you have Jalen Daniels back, who obviously had a very rough start to the season, you could see him, kind of coming into his own now. Last week against Houston, didn't throw any interceptions and made some really nice throws. I just think they need to keep going with what they've been doing offensively. And this is going to be a different ball game, of course. Regardless of the fact that KU played them close, this is a different ball game this time. This game is going to be played in Manhattan, where the environment is going to be very intense at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I believe it's their homecoming game as well. So, I mean, they're going to be ready. And I drove by the practice fields this morning, and they were blaring the Wabash Cannonball like a million times over the loudspeakers, and they were playing the K-State fight song, and they were playing a bunch of like crowd noise, and then they had the Wildcat noise playing like every maybe minute or so. So like, they're obviously getting ready for the tough environment that Bill Snyder Family Stadium brings. And I could definitely see a world where KU can finally pull off the upset, just based on, motivation and remembering what happened last year, and who they have on this team, and knowing that, these guys want to leave KU with a victory over Kansas State and finally putting an end to this nightmare.
Yeah. Rye Guy brings up a really great point. Thanks you, by the way, for the super chat, Rye Guy. This is one of the only games the Jayhawks play in the state of Kansas this year.
Whoa, no. We played two. No, we played 2 games
in Missouri, though. Isn't it in Missouri?
No. Children's Mercy Park is in Kansas City, Kansas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's over by the Raceway.
Yes.
Okay. So wait.
We played in the state of Kansas. Dang it.
Okay.
But not against us.
See, I was thinking here maybe we'll have some sunflower magic. They'll be back in the state for like the only time. But I mean, I was thinking y'all were playing most of your games at Arrowhead.
I could see why people get it confused, though. I mean, because there's 2 parts of Kansas City. There's the Kansas City, Missouri side, and there's the Kansas City, Kansas side. I know people get that mixed up, and I totally understand. But Children's Mercy Park is in Kansas. I hate to break it to you.
Okay, well, then maybe this will be y'all's first win in the state of Kansas. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not looking at y'all's schedule right now, but I'm trying to
beat Lindenwood, didn't beat UNLV.
Positive way. I'm trying to spin this in a positive way. Brownie, what do you think? Impartial third-party observer who likely hates both of these teams. How do you see the Sunflower Showdown going down?
So, I mean, you're not wrong. I do hate both teams, but I hate Kansas mostly in basketball and Kansas State just in
That's fair.
general. Uh, so I was kind of like torn in between this game, especially when I was going through the stats. I mean, stats don't always tell the tale, as we know from looking up the top 25 breakdown from ESPN, where they give all SEC teams a full blown 20-page thesis on why they deserve their rankings. And then Big 12 is like, oh, hey, they won their game. Congratulations. I personally think it's really going to come down to which defense can stop the mobile quarterback better. I think it's going to rely a lot on their linebacker play. And I think Kansas, you guys are still running the 3-3-5 stack, right?
I think
Or
so.
did you
Yeah.
guys? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have the same defensive coordinator.
Yeah, so I think they still have the 3-3-5 stack, and then I think Kansas plays a version of a 4-2 and sometimes a 3-3-5. It's really gonna be down to those 6 players, I think, that are gonna be in the box. I think that both quarterbacks can be really good at throwing, but I have also seen them make absolutely ridiculous decisions that they should not have in the pocket. Avery Johnson did, I would say, look a lot better last week in their game, especially now that he threw, I think, 200 some yards last weekend. It was the most that he's ever passed for, I think, this season so far. But for me, it's just going to be defense, defense, defense. Whoever gets that one stop, that one crucial stop, whether it be going into the second half or towards the end of the game, is going to determine the winner. 10-point favorites, for me personally, in any rivalry game, I think is ridiculous because just being an Iowa State person, we always try to play Iowa the hardest. And I think it's going to be the same way in this game. I do actually have Jayhawks coming ahead by 2 points in triple overtime.
Okay.
Whoa.
We'll see if
Yeah.
college football
Whoa.
25 agrees with you there.
24-26, triple OT.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I think you make a really
I'm
great
here for
point
the
about.
chaos.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the year for it. Let's be real. This is the
Yeah.
year for it. I mean, I think you make a really great point about like the team that gets that one defensive stop. It's going to come down to linebacker play. I think that's really great analysis. And your gut kind of says, if you're trusting one team to make that play on defense, your gut kind of says Kansas State. But this year has been so wild. I mean, there is a lot moving in Kansas State's favor for this game, right? It's a home game at night, the streak, all of that stuff. They're ranked. Their season's going pretty well. Kansas has been really disappointing, but it's almost like for all of those reasons, with the way things have gone this year, why it almost feels like, well, then Kansas is definitely going to win, right? Because they have no business. Like, it's just like
Exactly.
Houston a couple weeks ago, no business.
No
beating TCU
business.
at home, and it was awful. It was the worst. That was maybe the worst TCU game I've ever seen. I'm just being completely honest. But yeah. So I'm gonna reserve judgment on my pick until the end of the simulation, until the end of the show. Then we'll put on the hat of how we feel this is going to go down. But we will check back in on this. Let's move on ahead to let's talk about BYU. Why don't we? Let's talk about BYU. BYU going to UCF. Very, very interested in this game. The Cougs surviving last week, as you said, Brownie, against the Oklahoma State Cowboys at home. Now they go down to the bounce house. Very tough place to win. UCF, even as disappointing as they've been all year, you never know what's going to happen when UCF's playing in Orlando, and especially BYU has to travel so stinking far. I think that's why UCF is the 1.5-point favorite here. But I kind of feel like BYU's talent and discipline takes the day. What do you two think about it?
Last weekend, if this game would have happened last weekend, I would have had BYU by like 14, without a question. UCF was in a down trajectory. BYU was exceeding all expectations. And then Friday night's game and Saturday night's game has completely flipped the script for me. We learned Iowa State doesn't have a rush defense, which is extremely concerning, having both Kansas and Kansas State left on the schedule, especially with mobile quarterbacks. Brown, their quarterback, actually had a lot of rushing yards against us. Him and Harvey both, I think, combined for almost 350 yards on the ground, which is absolutely insane.
They did that to us too. If it makes you feel any better,
just slightly. As for BYU, if Retzlaff is still 100% healthy, I know that it was kind of questionable the way that he was playing kind of in the second half after taking that shot at halftime. If he's 100%, I think that BYU pulls it out, and I think it's going to be another close game. But if BYU did not watch tape at all season with RJ Harvey in the background, oh, there goes my camera. With Harvey in the background and then Brown now at quarterback, they really only have 1 week of film, a week and a half of film on him. If Retzlaff isn't playing very well, UCF could pull an upset. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Oddly enough, but I mean UCF has a chance for sure. And Clint, you mentioned the distance, going from all the way from Utah all the way down to Orlando, Florida. It's a very long, traveling trip for them. So but UCF, they've got the players, and I think they've got the skills that they need to beat this team. But and you guys kind of talked about it a little bit too. The Big 12 has just been so weird this year. And it's like at this point, it's kind of almost turned into, Big 12 basketball where it's like you don't know really who's going to win. And there's no definites, there's no absolutes. But I like BYU in this game. I think they're a very physical football team. And, there's a reason why they're the best team in the Big 12 right now. And, they blew out Kansas State. Now, I know some people out there are probably going to say, well, that game was kind of a fluke because you had that punt return and all these different things. But I like BYU in this game. I think they're a little bit more physical than UCF. And they're very well disciplined as well, kind of like you mentioned there. But give me the Cougars.
Come on, AP. Be better.
Jackson
Johnson sent in a super chat. Appreciate the super chat, Jackson Johnson. If Iowa State and BYU are unbeaten going into the Big 12 title game, do both of the schools get in the playoffs regardless of the result? This is a great question. What do y'all think?
No. SEC bias exists for a reason. The problem is you will always, and we've noticed it last season, as soon as Florida State's quarterback said that he wasn't going to play in the bowl game, a 13-0 team got kicked out and they got replaced by somebody else. I think that's going to be the nature of the beast, even with the extensions, is we're going to see more SEC and more Big Ten teams take over. And it's going to leave us poor ACC-ish and Big 12 teams out. Ideally, I think it would be both teams being unbeaten and going into that game. Maybe the winner of that will get a top 4 spot. But even then, I think the rules were that they were only guaranteed a spot in the playoffs. It didn't specify top 4 for the P4. So if one team loses a game and the other team is undefeated and the undefeated team loses in the Big 12 championship game, I can honestly see one getting bounced and the other one getting a lower seed.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. I mean, I think, Iowa State and BYU are both really good football teams, and they've had a great season so far. But I mean, people out there are thinking maybe 2 or 3 Big 12 teams could get in, but I don't know. It's just going to be hard to kind of see that happen and for that to happen. But I guess we'll find out. I mean, you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all these, you got Boise State, who I think is going to be in the college football playoff if they continue to do what they've been doing. Like all these other teams, are going to be, in there, and I think that's what's going to, make one of those teams bounce out, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, the problem is right now, I mean, you look at the top 25, just the sheer number of undefeated or one-loss teams in the top 25. So ideally, if you are an Iowa State or BYU fan, you're wanting to root for a lot of these other teams to lose so that it's not a barrier to entry for you, right? Because like you say, Browning, if there are too many 1 or 2 loss SEC teams, then I think they probably would put in like a 2-loss Tennessee over a 1-loss Iowa State. It'd be absolute BS. It'd be a crime, but I could see them doing that. Right.
I mean, what year was it when Alabama had 2 or 3 losses and they still made the playoffs? That was like at the very beginning of the whole playoffs thing. I remember because like Bama and Georgia both made it, and we were like, why? Alabama lost like 2 or 3 games that year. And then I think they ended up winning the entire thing. I could be mixing 2 or 3 joint together, but I just remember it was one of those where I was like, I don't understand why you guys picked like a 3 or a 2 or 3 loss SEC team when there was like another 1-loss really good Big Ten or ACC team. And they're like, oh, because it's Nick Saban. I was like, oh, cool. It's the Nick Saban bias.
Yeah.
Got it.
At least that doesn't exist anymore. And Rye Guy, there's your shout out to your number 1 ranked Ducks. I know you were waiting for that.
It could have been 2017.
Okay. So, yeah, I agree with you. I see. I mean, this is a classic trap game. It's definitely worrisome, but I see BYU coming away with this. I think that they're playing at too high a level right now. I'm feeling pretty good about it. Let's check in on what Kansas and Kansas State are up to at the moment. Okay, K-State just scored a touchdown. So, not ideal. Not ideal for pulling the upset. We'll check it on again later. Another rivalry happening in the Big 12 this week. The battle for the saddle, the West Texas Championship, ladies and gentlemen. Texas Tech coming to TCU, the site which once in 2014, the Horned Frogs ran out of fireworks because we scored so many points on them. How embarrassing. Okay, so that's not going to happen this year. I'll tell you that. I'm surprised that the Frogs are favored. I do think we have a chance to win this game, especially if our defense plays at the level that it did this past week. Encourage me, gentlemen. Help me feel good going into Saturday. Or don't. Whatever you feel.
Well, I brought it up earlier, but Texas Tech gave up 51 points to Abilene Christian at home. And I know it was a season opener, but I mean, this defense has given up so many points this year. And then they've got an offense, they've got playmakers on the outside. You got a quarterback that's going to throw the ball all around the field. So I really like that matchup for the Horned Frogs. I think that they have a possibility to have a field day against the Red Raiders.
A field day. Oh, goodness.
Maybe. I'm not saying 82-27, but maybe 30, 40 points.
I would gladly take 30, 40 points. I would gladly take that.
Yeah, I mean,
Randy, what do you think?
Yeah.
41-38, baby. TCU is coming out with that wild frog formation again. And, I mean, I don't know. I might have to ask the announcers who's going to get the ball snapped to them in the backfield. But once we figure that out, we should be good to go. Honestly, I think the only thing that's going to prevent TCU is stopping Brooks.
Yeah.
I really think that's going to be the leading factor on whether or not you guys have a good game. I'm not fully sold on Texas Tech's passing game. Their passing protection seems to be hit or miss. And there was a lot of very questionable coaching calls in a lot of their tight games. I think that they lucked out in the Cincinnati game. I know that we talked about that before. I think they lucked out there. I think they lucked out against AC. I put them on fraud alert last week, and I'm putting them on fraud alert again. I think they're just going to plummet. I really don't think this team is going to go bowling.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Hey,
Shots fired. I mean, I do agree
Is that what they
Taj
say?
Brooks is a problem. Taj Brooks is a problem for us just with our track record.
Wreck 'em, that's what it
he
is.
very well
Wreck 'em.
could have a field day against us. But I thought Utah would run for 200 yards against us, and they didn't. So, it has the defense turned a corner. That's the real question. This is a put up or shut up moment for the defense. You could make the argument that the reason we were able to do so much better against the run against Utah is because we weren't as worried about that quarterback, right? And Baron Morton presents a much more. I mean, I know you say their pass protection isn't that great, but he's a much better quarterback than Utah's freshman. Let's be honest. So yeah, I do see if we're going to win this game, I think we win in a shootout. I think you're right, Brownie. I think 41-38, something like that, is how you have to win it. You're going to have a great day from Josh Hoover. He's going to have to be back into form that he was early in the season, finding Jack Besh, finding Savion Williams. And hopefully supplementing the rushing attack with Savion Williams a little bit. What I'm dying for, and what so many TCU fans are dying for, is give us more Jeremy Payne, give us more Trent Battle. We've had several running backs be effective behind this line that's struggling a little bit. And Cam Cook, he seems like a good kid, but he's just not getting it done on early downs. So maybe we give Trent Battle and Jeremy Payne some more run, and maybe they're able to do something with it. All right. Making sure I'm not missing anything in here. Okay. Our last 2:30 game, Oklahoma State at Baylor. The Bears are 7-point favorites against OK State. Baylor looked really great last week, right? These were two teams that were on a collision course with purgatory, it looked like, until last week. Now Baylor finally got themselves figured out. Is it all Bears for y'all?
Sick 'em Bears.
Hey, don't say that.
Let's
not get crazy here.
No, I really do see Baylor winning this one. I mean, if Rangel gets healthy, I think that it might be a lot closer than what I originally predicted for them. Ollie Gordon was also banged up there. I also was seeing rumor mill on Twitter, which we all know how that goes, that Ollie Gordon might be out for this week. And if that's the case, if they're out Rangel and Ollie Gordon, they're going to have to go off of Bowman again. And that's not exactly what you want to hear as an Okie State fan. So I have Baylor 35-13. I really do think that they turned a corner last weekend. And I see nothing but blue skies ahead.
A little update for you.
Yeah, I've got Baylor
on the long touchdown.
I've got Baylor winning in this game too. Of course, you mentioned it, Rangel and Ollie Gordon. We're gonna have to, wait and see in here if they're gonna play or not. But if Bowman's going out there and playing, I don't like Oklahoma State's chances, unfortunately. So I really liked how Baylor played last week. It's a home game too, so I don't think Oklahoma State has had much success in Waco either in recent years. So I like the Bears.
Yeah. Going up like a Branch Davidian compound down there. Oklahoma State, they got some quarterback problems, man. That quarterback situation is abysmal. Yeah. Give me the Bears. Give me the Bears on an afternoon game when apparently they're attempting to stripe the stadium. We'll see how it goes for them.
Have you seen the picture of the striping?
Yes. I need to find it, actually.
I need to see this.
Pretty sure I have it somewhere. I'm pretty sure I retweeted it.
I think Drake Tolley hold on, let me find it. Drake Toll.
It was really, really bad.
Okay,
I need to see this. I haven't seen this.
Here we go. I've got it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me just share this screen. We'll stop sharing the game here for a second. Okay, yeah, this is pretty fantastic. Really sensible pattern. It's really easy to figure out where what you're supposed to be wearing, depending on where you're sitting. Not at all.
What in the world is that? I don't like that at all. Why?
Maybe they're thinking like, hey, we know nobody's going to pay any attention to this anyway. So like, maybe if we just make the stripes very bizarre shapes, then we can say it was a success. I don't know.
Well, it's weird.
So inconsistent.
It goes 2, like in the upper bowl, it goes 2, then 3, 2, then 3, 2, then 3. all the way around, but then the lower section is all yellow, and then the midsection is green. Like, when I
Yeah,
was
well,
looking
now
at this, I was like, oh my gosh.
in Baylor's defense, can't believe I'm saying something in Baylor's defense. In Baylor's defense, that long yellow section there by the field, I believe that's the Baylor line. I believe that's the student
Yes.
section.
That's the
They
student
all
section,
get yellow shirts anyway. So that's
Okay.
probably why they're keeping that yellow. But it looks super awkward with the completely green berm there in the end zone. What are we doing, people? What are we doing? But anyway, hopefully all the fans that attend
Baylor
for West
engineering
Tech
at its
get them.
finest, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. All right, moving right along. West Virginia travels to Arizona for a night game. I saw this one in my pick 'em, y'all. I was like, I don't know what. What do y'all make of this game? Who's gonna win? Who's gonna want it less?
I mean, that's kind of what it feels like. It all kind of depends on which Fafita that we see. Do we see Pac-12 Fafita for Arizona, where he's slinging it around, throwing for 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions? Or are we seeing like the new and improved Fafita of the Big 12, where he's throwing for 185 with 1 touchdown and 7 interceptions? Like, it all kind of depends on who shows up for that one, because if Fafita can offensively make Arizona go, and Arizona goes up by 2, it's going to put West Virginia in that kind of slow vice grip that Kansas State and Iowa State put on West Virginia as well, where, Garrett Green is going to have to start to pass, and he is not extremely proficient at passing. If you force them to get out of the run game, the RPOs, and you force Garrett Green to stay in the pocket with a spy or two, he's going to have problems. I really think that this one's going to be a lot higher in scoring than people think. I actually had it at 56-35 Arizona.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I was actually seeing it with 2 pick sixes. So I think it's going to really come down to quarterback play in order to make it happen. But I again, wild, outrageous take here. I really think Arizona's going to put the smackdown on West Virginia, and that's going to be the nail in good old Brown's coffin.
Yeah, I didn't like how West Virginia played against Kansas State, and then now they're going to go on the road and play a physical Arizona football team. Ooh, touchdown! Who scored that touchdown?
Tutty.
Scoop and score.
I can't.
Scoop and score.
14. Oh, that must be Jalen. I don't know. Ooh, we're winning. All right, sweet. Going back to the West Virginia game. Yeah, that was easily their worst performance of the season. West Virginia, they just look lost out there, and Kansas State's got a physical defense, and they let them get to the best of them. Obviously, Arizona, has a chance, here at home to get a big time Big 12 win. And I like the matchup for the Wildcats. You pointed it out, like, can Fafita, throw it around, get the ball to McMillan, the star wide receiver, who I believe is going to be one of the first players selected in the NFL draft next year.
I agree.
I like the Wildcats in this one. Give me Arizona. I'd say 38-20. 38-20, Arizona.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that Kansas State.
Hope your mic went away again.
Was troubling. It was troubling. Losing the Riot Bowl and then turning around and losing to Kansas State, it really feels like the Mountaineers are heading in the wrong direction. And I had such high hopes for West Virginia this year, But yeah, them traveling, and I will say this, it's a lot harder to travel west than it is to travel east, as I said, former Mountain West acolyte here. And West Virginia making that trek all the way. I mean, what the hell is Arizona on California time now? Who knows, right? Maybe they are. That's not a great situation for West Virginia to be playing in at night and for them to get the mojo back. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like the Wildcats are taking this one. I agree with y'all. Okay, on to our only game in the Big 12 this week, in which the away team is favored. The Utah Utes travel to Houston. They are
3-point favorites in what Brownie called what did you call it?
The home field effect.
Logos Bowl.
Oh yeah, the logo bowl. Yeah, I did send you that.
Logo bowl.
The logo bowl. They look the exact same.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah,
like
UU and UH, right?
Yeah, it was really funny because, Iowa State pregame, the marching band always comes out with all of the flags of the Big 12 teams. And one of the younger children that stands behind me, and he's probably about 6 or 7, goes, "Hey, Dad, why are there 2 Houston flags out there?" And I was like, "There's not 2 Houston flags out there." And we all look and we're like, "Okay, yeah, those look eerily similar."
Yeah. Wow. This is all Houston needs. Another team that's trying to steal its identity, right? UCF with the whole space thing. Utah now with the logos. I mean, come on, can't a team catch a break? I feel like Utah wins this. I feel like Utah's defense is too good. I feel like Wilson, maybe with now a new offensive coordinator in the mix, their offensive coordinator just stepped down. Maybe there's a little bit of a spark there. I don't know. What do y'all think?
I mean, I'm surprised that Utah's only a 3-point favorite against Houston, considering how they played against KU. I get it. They're on the road, so their favorability might be down a little bit. But I like the Utes. I mean, like you said, they just their offensive coordinator just stepped down, not fired. So I mean, maybe something will change. I don't know. I like Utah, though. I just don't like how Houston played last week, and I think they're going to be a little bit defeated this weekend. And Utah's a very physical football team, so I expect the Utes to come out on top. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. Give me Utah, I'll say 24-14.
Yeah.
That.
I had it's kind of weird for me because, I used to say at the very beginning, and I think my first appearance, that a 3-point favorite at home is basically just home field advantage. And I think that's really all that it is. I think that obviously they're saying that Houston and Utah right now are close to the same place for at least schedule-wise, I guess. I still think that Utah is the more athletic team. I think they're the more experienced team. I think that they're the more disciplined team. But after firing the OC, Isaac Wilson basically came out and he was like, the only reason why I chose Utah over other schools was because of this OC, but I'm going to stay and see where everything leads because I really like this program. Like, that interview to me just kind of seemed like he wants out and he wants to feel the water and see if there's something nice out there, but he doesn't necessarily want to burn the bridge, so to speak. And I just don't know if Whittingham has just lost the locker room or something, because in some of these games, it just feels like down the stretch, like Utah's just not in it. So I really think that Houston's going to jump back. I actually have Houston going and winning 27-24, covering the spread. But again, it could swing either way. It all just kind of depends on this new OC and the fresh blood, and if Isaac Wilson stops looking like a freshman.
Yeah, I think that, you hit it on the head. And there, Kansas is about to close this one out, it looks like. 2 minutes left in the game with a...
This better happen in real life.
Yeah, honestly.
I know. Me too.
Yeah. I need the buffer.
So let's talk our last game. Cincinnati at Colorado. This one's a little intriguing as well. Again, a tough trip for Cincinnati all the way out there, and Colorado's been playing very well, but Cincinnati's been playing well too, and I think that's why this is only a 5.5 point favor for Colorado. I want to believe Cincinnati can win this game, but it's a very, very tough situation. What do y'all think? Is this all buffs to y'all?
I mean, considering that this game's played at night, yeah. I mean, if this game was played maybe in the afternoon or earlier in the day, then I think Cincinnati has a better chance. But I don't like the fact that this game is at night for the Bearcats. I'm gonna roll with the Buffs. I really liked how they played last week, and they're starting to play well. So give me Cincinnati, not Cincinnati. Give me Colorado, 31-21. I think it'll be a close game at times. I think Cincinnati can keep it close for sure, but I just think with this game being at night and on the road for them, I like the Buffs.
Yeah, my score prediction was pretty close to yours. I had Colorado 31, Cincinnati 24. Shedeur Sanders, I guess, has gotten it figured out on how to manipulate their terrible offensive line to be able to pass the ball effectively. For me, it's going to be more of, can Shedeur survive the Cincinnati defensive line? Like, Cordelleone is amazing. They have a couple other defensive linemen that are in like that substitution mass sub formations that really do come off well, especially for pass rushing. I think it's going to be one in the trenches. But I would also like to put out the fraud alert on Travis Hunter, the Mr. I deserve the Heisman while not being able to finish an entire game the past 3 weeks. Like, brother, you can't finish an entire game. You don't deserve the Heisman. You're not even putting up that good of numbers on both sides of the ball. Like, what was it when he was like, oh, imagine if I caught as many catches as Genty has got carries. I was like, okay, but like, you also don't have contact for like 95% of your route. So, like, do we just get rid of that because Jenny gets hit within like 4 lines of scrimmage and then runs for another like 20 yards? I think somebody was
just
saying
stands
that
there like this before getting the ball.
Yeah. Like, it's wild to me. He's like super athletic, but he just stares there like menacingly. Like, somebody was sitting there with like the SpongeBob meme, you know, where he's just standing there menacingly, and it's just Genty just
I see you do it again.
Yeah. I was like, man, Genty alone is just a SpongeBob meme, like, at this point. But yeah, Travis Hunter saying that he deserves the Heisman over anybody is an actual laughable offense. And any Colorado buff that believes in that should just unfollow me from Twitter right now.
Hey, listen, the reason I want Jonty to win, because I'm a lifelong LaDainian Tomlinson idolizer, and for God's sake, whenever you have a generational running back in a non-power team, give that kid the Heisman. Okay, he deserves it. He deserves it. Give it to him.
Right there for you, Clint. Right there. That's an LT Hall of Fame helmet.
Ooh.
Oh, is that
Old Navy? It sure is.
Oh yeah,
that's sick.
Look at that.
Love that.
Love it. Well, this one just went final. Kansas won 21-9, and you know,
that happened in real life, man.
I was not going to make. Well, I guess I should cover Cincinnati first. I really feel like if this isn't like you said, Austin, if this isn't a 9:15 game at home in Colorado, I like Cincinnati a lot better in this game. But dadgummit, this is just a really bad situation for them to walk into. I feel like the Buffs win. But as for my pick for Kansas and Kansas State for the Sunflower Showdown, you know, I want to make this pick exclusively based on vibes. That's how I made it last year. The streak is going to end eventually, right? Eventually, the streak has to end. And I think this year, with the struggles that Kansas has had and the way the Big 12 has gone, it feels like there's no more perfect and no more hilarious time for the Kansas Jayhawks to come away with a victory in Manhattan, Kansas. Hey, I believe it's going to happen. I believe it's going to happen, okay? And, you know, I'll probably be wrong. But that's what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So that's our show, everybody. Thank you so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night, as always. Gentlemen, tell the people where they can find you.
You guys can follow me on Twitter at right here. Wrong hand. You can follow me on Twitter at Austin Eckert. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want. It's also under the handle Austin C. Eckert. I do plan on posting some videos on there in the foreseeable future, so be sure to go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, please follow me on X. I post a lot on there too, so you can find me on there.
Fantastic.
As always, at Hoosier Burner. You can see me on Twitter dumpstering on everybody and screaming at Okie State for not downing the ball at the 2-yard line. I also am part of the Wide Right Natty Light family, so you can follow us on Twitter. There's a link to our Discord page for all Big 12 fans if you're interested. And we'll catch you on the flip side.
There we go. Man, when John Grove sees this hat, he's going to be in shambles. That's all I know. Absolutely in shambles. Okay. Yes. Please subscribe to the show. There it is running across the bottom of the screen at Big 12 Boys of College Football. We do this every Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night. Rain or shine, baby. We're going to be here being a part of your Tuesday talking about this crazy conference that we love. Also, please do follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. There it is. There it is. And subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. If you're interested in contributing to the documentary, that would be amazing. I'm $500 away from my goal. The response has been fantastic. You can find that on my Twitter, on all of my social media, and on my YouTube channel. All of the information you need for that. Be on the lookout. August 2025. That's when that sucker's going to come out. Remember the Alamo Bowl. That's what we're calling it. Okay. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, and thank you so much, everyone, for participating in Super Chats. That's a fantastic way to support the show. We're rolling out memberships very, very soon. And we're also going to be rolling out a TCU-specific channel where all of those post-game reaction videos are going to move. So be on the lookout for that. So until next week, y'all, I love you. I hope your team wins. And go Big 12.
I hope so, too. Please, please, please.
We had a great week of practice.
One of those, man.